Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is TRG. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about comparing ourselves to others and how it's destroying our motivation. We see other people's successes, their relationships, their confidence, and somehow our own progress starts to feel meaningless. It slowly destroys our confidence, focus, and our ability to really enjoy our lives. So today we're going to be diving into all those topics. I'm going to be talking about my own kind of experience with that. And yeah, hopefully this helps you. First and foremost, if you like this channel, please hit like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And we really couldn't do any of this without you. So love to see some viewership go up, and obviously for people to spread the word if this makes sense for all of you and you find value. Anyways, on to the rest of the video. So, let's talk about comparison a little bit. Why do we compare ourselves to people? So comparison number one, I've been guilty of this many times in my life, and I think it's important for everyone to understand that this is actually natural. Okay, so don't feel a certain way or shame about it. Sorry, I'm just raising my mic, because it definitely is natural, and our brain tries to constantly measure where we stand. So it's trying to gauge the goalpost, and it's almost like a moving goalpost when we're aiming towards that distance that we see over there, which might be like our friends or colleagues or peers or whatever, or superiors, where we're trying to gauge towards that kind of progress or success. And then when we get there, the goalpost moves, and it constantly moves and moves and moves. And it's almost like a trick that our mind is playing on us. So try not to feel too bad about it, and don't beat yourself up about it too much. Comparison definitely happens, and it is natural. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down my script here. So why does comparison quietly destroy our motivation? So at first, comparison really feels motivating. You're chasing after something, right? You see someone be very successful or achieving something that you want to achieve, that you're striving towards, and you think, I want that too. Why don't I want to make a ton of money, be successful, I don't know, have a six pack, like whatever you're trying to strive towards. It seems like it's almost like a dopamine hit, that it's just really, you're going after that, right? But over time, something really changes, right? You're no longer working because you're excited about that particular goal. You're working because you're afraid that you're going to be lesser than the other person. It's that moving goalpost that we always talk about, where that person's getting, or that success, the measure of success anyways, is getting further and further away from you all the time. And you're almost like, I have to run 2 miles faster, 3 miles faster, 5 miles faster. And if you miss a day, you're like, I have to run another 10 miles just to catch up to be on par of where I was, right? And that's a really dangerous mentality to have, because you almost feel like you're in an endless race that is, you're just never going to get to the finish line, right? I think comparison often creates permanent dissatisfaction within your life. Like, you just don't really stop to think how much you've achieved, but you're always looking at the glass half empty. Like, how much have I not achieved on that other end? And that's really toxic, or can be very, very toxic. Okay. When you're constantly comparing yourself to others, you slowly stop understanding what you actually want. So I think this is a really good point. You get further and further away from your core values and why you started this journey in the first place, whether it is fitness, whether it is, I don't know, a goal to learn basketball or dancing or whatever that might be, or finish your university degree or your GED. And you're permanently chasing approval rather and status, So it's less about what you started this journey about. It's more so about your peers and colleagues and superiors approving of you, and the status that you're going to be achieving when you hit that particular goal, right? So I have an example here. Some people spend years chasing careers they hate simply because they want to look successful. So I've seen this time and time again. Obviously, in the Asian community, we're very notorious about this. The only 4 occupations are what? Doctor, lawyer, computer scientist, accountant, or computer engineering, accountant. Um, what's another good example? Biochemist, I don't know, right? Like, just really like a minimal amount of acceptable professions that people can go into that their parents won't be embarrassed about, right? You're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? And some people do it out of their own accord to chase money and chase status rather than actually chasing what they dream of, right? That's why you see doctors up and quit and become influencers, for example, right? Or go, I don't know, open a bakery when they spent the last 30 years of their life studying, for example. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is the social media trap. So I think the advent of social media in the last 10 or 15 years have really hyped this thing up into overdrive, right? Comparing ourselves, right? Where social media creates impossible standards. It really does. You see people posting luxury vacations, perfect relationships, business success, etc., like perfect bodies that are photoshopped, AI, great lighting, shot from a specific angle. Like these particular people are like on a I don't know what it's called, but in weightlifting, I guess like you drink a ton of water and you pee it all out, like to basically piss out all the toxins to make yourself like I guess look leaner. Um, yeah, that's not natural. Like people just don't do that on a daily basis, right? Like I can't tell you how many people that I know that they live this luxurious lifestyle on Instagram only to find out that actually they don't own anything. Everything is like rented or leased or borrowed or maybe stolen in some circumstances. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive towards those things, but you should be really, really careful about what like people's realities actually are or what you're perceiving it to be. And like it's really toxic for you to intake all that information and then really be like, wow, success can only look this way, for example. Yeah. What can be hidden a lot of times is anxiety, failure, loneliness, etc. I think it happens a lot of times. I've met a lot of people that are just social media savants, shall we say, or like online perpetually all the time. And like they seem like the most unhappiest people in the world. Like if they get a dislike, it's like the end of the world. You know, you compare your everyday reality to someone else's carefully edited moments, right? And eventually, normal life starts feeling disappointing and it catches up with you eventually. You can't keep that facade forever. I've met people that make way more money than I do, but because of lifestyle inflation, like keeping up with the Joneses, they're broke. Like literally, they're broke. Okay, on to the next topic: healthy inspiration versus toxic comparisons. So, healthy inspiration says, if you can do it, maybe I can too, right? Versus toxic comparisons, their head, so I must be failing. You kind of see the difference. Like one is almost glass half full, like I'm motivating myself to kind of like chase things. And the other thing is like I'm constantly behind trying to catch up with other people, right? I hope you guys can see the distinction there, but one is almost out of jealousy or envy, that you're trying to get towards a place, and then the other side of it is like more hopeful and positive. So I think it's a fine line, but it's something that you really need to learn and navigate and really check yourself, quite frequently about that. So how do we stop letting comparisons control ourselves, right? So number one, I think be careful what you consume every day. So I personally kind of grew up with the advent of social media, like kind of the beginning of Facebook for sure when I was in university. I never was a social media guy. I know a ton of people that were hooked on Facebook. I created one just because, like, 2 years after social media or Facebook was invented, because my friends told me to, or like, they just said, fine, like, come on, like, just get on Facebook and connect with us. So I did it, but honestly, like, I never used it. I never check it. Like, I maybe log in once every 2 years. Okay. So I think that's important. And then with the invention of everything, you have, X, you have TikTok, you have YouTube, you have all these other things just bombarding you every single day. And I'm guilty of it as well, right? I watch YouTube a ton. You really, really have to be careful about what you consume every day and who you're following and why you're following them. And if you have kids, same thing. Like things that you gotta really watch out for, right? When we're talking about that. Okay. I think measuring yourself measure against your past self, right? So the only person that you really need to please is yourself, right? Like that's something that I'm trying to get at with this video. You shouldn't be measuring yourself against, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, like whomever, Serena Williams, whatever, Tiger Woods, whatever role model you have out there. You should really be measuring yourself against your previous progress. And that's not to look back and get into depression that you're like, wow, when I was in my 20s, I used to have a six pack and now I'm in my 40s, I have a gut. I don't mean that, but I mean like if you measure yourself against some gains that you've made periodically where it's like, cool, like before I could do 5 push-ups, now I can do 10, and before I could do 10 and now I can do 20. Like that's progress. And that's like feasible progress that you can see within yourself. And I think that that's probably the best driving force that you can give yourself, that is like genuine and natural. And you can control that as well, right? You know yourself internally, what kind of life you're leading. If you're like renting Lamborghinis and pretending that you bought them, or renting a house and pretending that you own it, like those are variables that you can control within your own life, rather than looking at some fucking Instagram feed and being like, wow, that person's living lavishly, only to find out like that, car was rented and like, whatever, right? That house was like rented too. We know this from like 20 years of watching hip hop, like music videos, like any music video that you see, it's generally a bunch of models that are rented with like G5 wagons or whatever, and like a big mansion with a crazy swimming pool and a crazy party. Yeah, that's all fucking fake. It's all rented, guys. Like, please understand that, okay? Ask yourself what you actually want. So I think you really have to check yourself like periodically to really get down to the core values of why you're doing this, what you're doing it for, and what you really want to obtain out of this at the end of the day. Okay? And do this often. Don't wait until you get into panic mode before you do this, because it's going to end up badly for you. If you routinely check yourself, I think you will have a much better time of like correcting behavior before it becomes a thing, or at least admitting that you have a problem that you might need to like make some serious changes with your life. Okay. So I want to keep this video shorter because the videos have been going pretty long and I don't think people are watching it to the end. It's like 22 minutes. So this one was 12 minutes. I tried to keep it here. This is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked my content, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to leave some links down below. I did start a Kickstarter and a Patreon. I think my account manager did. And I would really appreciate if you guys, can afford it, of course, help yourself first. And then if you can feel like you want to pass me a couple bucks, that's great. It helps the channel grow. I'm using all the proceeds towards paying people that are helping me out with the channel, as well as hiring more people, getting software to make the channel grow and give you guys better content ultimately. So none of it's really going into my own pocket to lease out a Lamborghini. That's not the point of this, okay? So I hope you guys know that, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for your patience. TOG out. Peace.